This video is going to go through the long-term causes of World War I. All right, and so a lot of times it's easy to look back at historical events and say, "Oh yeah, this event is what caused the whole thing to happen, the whole war to happen." But it's going to be much more than that. All right, so like when we talk about the short-term causes, the event that occurred that sparked the war, you have to understand. I talk about this a lot. Context is important. So understanding what's going on in the world to why all of a sudden a massive war breaks out is really important. So we're going to go through the context of that right now. And we're going to use this acronym, the main causes. All right. So that main causes is going to be militarism, alliance, imperialism, and nationalism. All right. Spells the word main. This will be an extended response question on your test. All right. Notice how I didn't say short answer. I said extended response. Okay, so having an understanding of the long-term causes, this is something that you will have to know and be able to explain in detail and provide examples. All right, and so let's not waste any time. Let's get to it. All right, so militarism. All right, well, that sounds exactly what it is. It involves obviously the military. It's the glorification of war and military. Countries competed against one another. Words are hard. To have the most powerful military. Countries found security in their military technology and army size rather than diplomacy. And this military technology is going to be a really important thing that we're going to talk about. Because as a result of the Industrial Revolution, we're able to make a lot of cool products and we're able to sell and mass produce goods, and it's all great. But we've also gotten really, really good at killing each other. We're able to mass produce these weapons that are horrific. In their scope, the machine gun gets invented, where instead of a single shot rifle, maybe you can fire 8 rounds in a minute. They fire 400 rounds in a minute. Poisonous gas, all the chemical warfare is going to get introduced on a larger scale. The airplane is going to get invented, and they're going to figure out a way to weaponize that. A new armored vehicle that can move across the open field called the tank is going to get introduced. So there's a lot of military technology that's going to be developed during this time as a result of industrialization, and people are going to take security in that. Now, some of those things, the airplane and the tank, hasn't been utilized yet, but they will. Countries began preparing for the possibility of war, which led to tensions between nations. So, for example, Germany expanded their navy. And in response to that, Great Britain would do the same. Because Great Britain's an island nation, they have the largest empire in the world, and they feel like, hey, we got to protect our empire. If Germany has a bigger navy, they could defeat us and take our empire away. And so that just created tension between these European powers. And if you really think about it, this happens a lot with not so much anymore, but when an enemy starts to build up their weapons, because especially in Germany and Great Britain aren't the key enemies. I'm going to talk about this in the next slide. Germany and France hate each other. And so if Germany, a country that you hate or hates you, starts to build up their military, it starts to create an uneasy feeling. Like, are they planning on using it? Are they going to invade? What is going on? All right, it just creates a tension that wasn't there. So we get this a lot with like North Korea. Like North Korea will launch some nuclear weapon and test it and flex their muscles and be like, yeah, we're going to blow up the world. And it's like, all right. But they're our enemy, so it puts us on edge a little bit. Or they view us as their enemy. A lot of you probably don't even think about them. All right, and so that's militarism, this buildup of military. Alliances, these are defense agreements between nations. That's what an alliance is. Germany and France, like I said in the last one, they hate each other. They had fought in a Franco-Prussian war, and the Germans had taken territory from them called Alsace and Lorraine. All right, and that is, it's a territory right on the border of France and Germany. I'll show you what that looks like. That's not really important now, but that will be later. We're going to talk about that. And you can imagine the French obviously are mad. They feel like they have land stolen from them. You're a French citizen one day, the war ends, and now all of a sudden you live in Germany. That's not great. And so they don't like each other, so they felt like these alliances were needed to protect themselves. All right, and there's going to be 2 great alliances that are going to form in Europe at the time. The first one's called the Triple Alliance. So Germany is going to ally themselves with the neighbors to the south of Austria, Hungary, and Italy. All right, and these are defense agreements in nature meant to protect. So if France wants to try to fight and take back, this is where Alsace and Lorraine would be located, to take back that territory, they are going to have if the French invade the Germans, that means Austria-Hungary and Italy would attack France. All right, and so it's defensive in nature, and it would prevent the French from trying to attack the Germans. All right, so that is the Triple Alliance. All right, you'll have to know that one. The other alliance, just like in the picture here, is called the Triple Entente. It's a French word. I'm missing an accent. I don't know how to put accents when I write stuff. But it's in response to the Triple Alliance. France allied themselves first with the Russians, kind of pitting Germany right in between these two countries, and then later with Great Britain as well, which is a very powerful ally. And so basically what you have these military powers that are pitted against each other now in Europe. All right, so you have these rival alliances that are pitted against each other. All right, and there's also a lot of smaller ones, like the Russians had, like they viewed themselves as the protectorate of these people down here. These are the Slavic people of Eastern Europe. I'm referencing that because that's a big deal. We're going to talk about that later. All right, that's going to become a big deal. Like, so they had alliances with like Serbia, which is here. They helped them out in the Balkan Wars, which some we'll talk about in the next unit as well. But there was a bunch of alliances where these countries had each other's backs. All right, and once again, this is the key here. Why this is so significant. Rival alliances are pitted against each other. The European rivals are pitted against each other. So now if one country goes to war, basically everybody's going to go to war. All right, and that's basically what happened here. Like, here's Serbia, and you got the Austro-Hungarians. The way the war is going to start, Austria-Hungary is going to declare war on Serbia. All right, so this is Serbia, this is Austria-Hungary. And then the Russians have an alliance with them. So these guys are allied. So they're like, hey, don't touch him. I'm going to hit you. And then Germany's like, all right, well, yeah, I have an alliance with Austria-Hungary, so I'm going to get you. And here we got France and Great Britain flying in. We'll get the Ottoman Empire jumping in. We got a bunch of different people jumping into a conflict that really just started out between these two countries. All right, so that's going to be a problem. It's going to that's what really makes it a world war. All right, because then they're going to also get their colonies involved as well. And so you'll get, the colonies will get involved, Africa, India, China and Japan will get involved as well. All right, so it's going to turn into a world war. Obviously, imperialism, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. We just got done talking about it, where these countries are going to compete for natural resources and markets and to compete to have the largest empire. Just like we did, if you remember our Scramble for Africa simulation. The rock, paper, scissors, we wanted everybody had their own goal on what they wanted to do in Africa. Sometimes those goals overlapped, and it would create conflict. All right, and here are just some examples of that. Like, so Germany and France almost went to war over Morocco. That's in Africa. On 3 separate occasions, they almost went to an all-out war again. France and England, yeah, they're allies, but they got into a fight over Sudan. That is in the eastern part of Africa, northeastern part of Africa. Germany, England, and Russia, they were arguing over building railroads in India. So there was a lot of conflict that existed between these European countries as a result of imperialism. All right, and so once again, none of these events so far are really things that cause the war, but it creates a lot of tension. You have European rivals pitted against each other. You've got these countries building up their militaries. You've got they're almost going to war over territory that they want. And so it's all this stuff that is pouring in. And really a huge cause is this concept of nationalism, which we've also already talked about. The belief that your nation is superior and support the interest of one's nation as a result, which can usually be a detriment, that's a word meaning can be a negative thing for other nations. All right, and so these countries have this extreme pride in their nation. They want to do what is best for their nation, regardless how other countries feel about it. And this really can fit into everything. So countries competed to be the best. They want to have the best military. They want to have the best economy. They want to have the most territory, the most resources, the largest empire. All right, so nationalism is really running rampant in Europe at this time. And what best way to show that you're better than somebody than by just beating them in a war, defeating them in a war? And so it's oftentimes, once again, it's at a detriment, so it hurts another country. So Germany and France, they, like I said, it spills into everything. So really, nationalism can kind of fit into all these categories. They want the biggest empire. They want the most resources. They want the best military. They want to be the best. All right, so nationalism can kind of fit into all these areas. All right, and we're going to talk about specific forms of nationalism as well. But these countries are basically competing to try to be the best, regardless of how it impacts other other nations. Building up the best military, want to build up their navy, have a military draft, have the largest empire, so we're going to try to take it from another country. Have the biggest military, try to threaten, which threatens another country, but we don't care. We want to do what's best for us, which when everybody has that mentality, it just creates a lot of tension in Europe. And so there's so much tension in Europe. All it's going to take is a small spark to ignite that tension, to ignite the powder keg that's going to explode into an all-out world war.